Hello, everyone. I'm Angeline, and she's Resa. Welcome to episode 111 of With the Quickness.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday indeed. Today, we share our takeaways from the July 31st, 2022 sermons given at First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset, New Jersey, and a past sermon given at New Home Family Worship Center in New Orleans, Louisiana. So, Resa, what were your takeaways from First Baptist today?
So my takeaway is that your mind can hold you back in the past, so you can't move forward.
Okay. My big takeaway from the service was to stop wasting time. You can always get more money, but not more time. Now let's go to New Home Family Worship Center. What was your big takeaway there?
That communication is key.
Okay. My takeaway was always treat others the way you desire to be treated. We're going to get more into those sermons a little later, but right now it's time for the song of the week. So Resa, what do you have up?
Okay, so for this week, I found a song that I really, really like. It is by Keyondra Lockett. The song is called Liar. For those of you, her name might sound a little familiar because she is from the gospel group Ziel. This group formed in 1998, and they put out two albums, Genesis and Ziel. In between those albums, Keyondra put out two mixtapes, the first one being Soul Couture 1 in summer of 2012 and Soul Couture 2 in December of 2015. Keyondra is also a BMI songwriter. And for those of you that don't know what BMI means, BMI stands for Broadcast Music Inc. And basically that is an American performing rights organization that represents songwriters, composers, and music publishers. So with that being said, Keyondra has co-written songs for Kiara Shard Kelly. For her LED EP, she co-wrote the song Make Me Better. And Keyondra also co-wrote the song Yeah, Ah, Ah for the artist known as Bree. When asked by Jesse Clarks from Christian Beat, like the backstory behind the song Liar, Keyondra said that, the devil is tricky and schematic. You've got to have the Holy Ghost to carry you in all situations. When Peter tried to stop Christ from going to the cross, he told Peter, Satan, get thee behind me. And that was Matthew 16:23. She also goes on to say he knew that was the devil talking through Peter. And that's exactly what we've got to do when we're tested by the devil.
So nice.
I say that all to say that the song in particular, you wouldn't think it was a gospel song if you first heard it. I know I didn't at first, but it has like a nice summer vibe to it. But it also does remind everyone that the devil is a liar and to keep pushing forward.
Wow. So it definitely is something you could hear playing in the car in the summertime. But when you first heard it, you said it didn't sound like the typical Christian where you could hear the lyrics right away. It was dealing with Satan, etc. Or can you tell right away she's talking about Satan in the lyrics, or only in the hook or the chorus?
Honestly, at first, no, because the beat to me, it gave me like it reminded me of like the islands in a sense. So I didn't realize that it was a gospel song until I actually read the lyrics, and I was like, oh wait, this is a gospel song, and I like this because again, it's a song that I could definitely put the windows down in my car and have it blaring through the speakers.
Well, I definitely gave it a listen when you told me about it, and it's definitely a summer vibe to it. I can definitely hear her accent. She's probably from an island or something like that. But it was really, really good. And you said she was part of a group. How many people were in that group?
There were 3 people in that group.
Okay. All right. So so hopefully maybe the group will put out something in the future, but until they do, it looks like she's hard at work.
Yeah, honestly, she's hard at work musically, and also she does a lot of charity work. And I also just want to quickly mention this because I think this is something that people should know about her as well. Okay. She has a nonprofit glam camp for girls. She also does Saving Our Daughters and Rock Paper Scissors, and she's also participated with Christian Services Poor Man Super. It's a fundraiser for the homeless. And Keyondra, she also spearheaded the Beautiful Experience campaign. And basically it's to help women and girls of all ages be empowered by realizing their beauty from within. So I think that was something really nice to learn about her, that she really is, not only does she love to sing for Jesus and write for Jesus, she also likes to give back whenever she can.
Yeah, she's definitely into girl power and giving back. And I'm so glad you highlighted some of her things she's been doing in her community just to help others. That's so important. It's like she's taking her talent and also turning it in a way that can actually help others. So I'm really glad you had added her to the playlist. If anyone else has any songs they want to add to your playlist, where should they email you?
So they can email me at Resa with quickness.com.
Okay, great. And like I said, I hope everyone gives it a listen. It's on our website now. If you go to www.withquickness.com, you'll see the song listed up there, so you can actually play it. I believe is it the video or just the song that's playing right now?
So currently, right now, it's just a song. There isn't
Okay.
a video out just yet because the song just came out July 22 of this current month. So
Okay. So and we're not sure if it's going to become part of an album or not, are we? She hasn't officially said.
I haven't heard anything about an album.
Okay. All right. So right now it's out as a single. It's just something she's been working on. She's proud of it. Let's go support it and play it a lot on YouTube and download it if you have Spotify. Thanks so much, Resa. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Let's go on to the bulk of our show. We're going to go to First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens in Somerset, New Jersey. They began with their praise and worship singers setting the tone in the sanctuary. Pastor Tim Moore was greeted along with his family by Pastor Quick. Pastor Quick also stated that Sister CeeLo watches faithfully FBCLG online for Bible study and for Sunday service, and he gave her a beautiful shout out. I think she's in her 90s, which is great. Pastor Quick went on to talk about, since this is I press my stewardship is the theme for July, and it's the very last Sunday. He went on to talk a little bit about his past and how he said in the past he had a poor credit score and that he knows what it's like to come back from that. And he would like for all of us to work harder on our finances. And to do that, he has put Dr. Patterson to lead the D-Free program at FBCLG. And Pastor Quick has now actually thrown down the gauntlet, and he says he knows there's debt in the congregation, and he wants $300,000 in debt to be freed from the Christians in First Baptist. That's a lot of money, but there's a lot of people on the rolls for that church. So can it be done? Yes. Can it surpass that? Yes. So we're looking forward to see how he wants the congregation to tell how they're working on paying down their debt. Maybe this is going to be something that Dr. Patterson steps forward and puts a program in place that we can all track how much we're actually paying off. It'll be great because I know in the past when I first joined First Baptist, people used to get up and stand up and say things that they've paid off. Like they would say, I paid off my credit card, I paid off my car, I paid off my house. That used to happen in my congregation. So it was really, really nice. So if we're going to get back to some kind of announcement, even on social media, wouldn't that be great on social media for people that have the hashtag I press my stewardship or hashtag D-Free talking about how much they've paid off?
Yeah, I think that would be great, and it would probably be like really inspiring to see other people like across the globe, or maybe just in our home state, just mention that they paid off certain debts.
Yeah, I mean they could put hashtag D-Free and hashtag FBCLG to show that they're part of our church. But yeah, I think Pastor Emeritus Soaries would love it to actually see the success story still out there and circulating how well D-Free is working in their lives. And I know Pastor Quick would be, so for that too. And that's because that's why we had the conference right there at the church. In the I press my stewardship moment, Brother Charles Corpening bared his testimony and gave hope to everyone that is working on their finances. Then Pastor Quick showed us the beautiful pictures from the Diamond Tween Camp Rite of Passage. These are some beautiful girls, and they all were wearing the shirts that he said last Sunday would be paid for by the church. And then Pastor Quick asked the question that caused crickets to happen in the congregation. He said, what's the Young Men's Program? And even us online, we're like, do we have one? I don't know, do we have one? we were thinking about it. And then finally he says, we have to do something about it, because no one stood forward and said, oh, it's such and such. You know how you do? You call out to the pastor, even, his side, reverends and elders and, people on the side, they say something. But nobody on the side said anything, and none of us in the congregation and none of us online. So he just took it as the crickets mean we need to work on that. So I have a feeling a young man's program is going to be coming pretty soon. What do you think about, the diamonds being celebrated and starting a new men's program, Resa?
Oh, we should definitely have a men's program. I feel like it should be for both genders, the guys and the girls.
Yeah, he made a wonderful point that how can you expect, our young women to be out here and being treated right if we don't have a program that also tells our young men how to treat them? You know, that'll be great. I mean, I know it's hard to get men out to do things, but sometimes if you tell a man you're coming out to help another a young one on the way coming up, kind of makes guys go, okay, let me go see what I can do at the church to help these young ones get in the right direction,
Yeah, and then plus too, I do think like a lot of guys like to be around other guys so they can have that whole camaraderie to be like, yeah, we're here together, and then all of a sudden they become brothers and all that stuff happens. So it is like a good bonding experience, and they also get to learn skills on how to properly treat a lady. So.
I know. But what do you think about this? I was thinking about this. Why do only women have to be over the women's program and men only over the young men's program? Isn't there vital things that women can come in and even teach and talk about to young men that might be important and help them on their way and their journey, that would resonate and hit home more because it's coming from a woman, just like a man can say some things to a young woman that it'll hit home and really make her go, wow, I better make sure I don't do that because I'm hearing that from a man.
See, I agree because this just reminds me of when we used to watch that show, the dating show, where they had the coaches. There was like one male and one female, but even though they would separate, the two genders, like the male coach would talk to the females, and the female coach would talk to the guys, but they actually ended up learning a lot of vital information from the opposite gender.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think if they decide to make a young men's program and keep up with the Diamond Twins, my suggestion, if I'm allowed to give it, is they should also incorporate, the opposite sex. If not in the leadership of it, if that's too much, then at least they should definitely be assigned. I can remember many fraternities had not only male leaders over them, they also had, a female that would come and talk to them and do stuff. And I know many teams that were predominantly male still had women around them to give advice and to help out and stuff. It wasn't just males over males and females over females. I'm not saying that every position has to be the opposite sex. What I'm saying is when programs happen and when advisors are called, there should be also people of the opposite sex helping out so that a young man and a young woman have a full understanding of what's expected of them and what's being poured into them.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, when you're able to give someone the full picture, they better not only do they better understand, it's easy for them to also not navigate, because sometimes when you just get one side of it, you don't really understand the full scope of what you're stepping into, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah, because it's one thing for a man to say, young women are like this, therefore you should act in ABC kind of ways. And it's another thing to say a woman in front of you saying, this is what we think when you guys do A, B, and C.
Right.
And you're like, as a guy, you're like, that's what y'all really thought? That's not what we intended. Like, this is how young women think, because I was a young woman and I speak to young women and I have daughters. So I know rather than because I'm not saying that it's like blind leading the blind when women just tell how guys feel about things to girls and when men tell how women feel about things to young men. But it's good to have as much information as possible as a young person to make a decision and be as transparent as possible. I always wondered when I was going to church younger, before I was in First Baptist, why it was so clear that there had to be a fine line between the programs. Now, some people say, we don't want to have any sin happening and we don't want people to be tempted. Okay, got it. But last time I looked, I didn't think anybody that had any really issues with working with the youth were allowed to be over the youth. I think they really did a good background check trying to find out to make sure you were okay to be over the youth. I think that still goes on today. I don't think it's just you volunteered and all of a sudden a former rapist is over the girls program. I don't think it's like that. I think there is I think the leadership was really diligent about who's over each. But as far as once a person's in place, whoever comes in and helps out that program, they're not going to be an ordained minister, but they will be an advisor. They'll be a helper in some way, shape, or form. It makes a difference. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just somebody that helps with the event that's being put on. Oh, I know we can call sister so-and-so and sister so-and-so to help us put on the gala or put on our rites of passage. They'll be there to help out with the tickets and to help us get us ready, and they'll help with the design of the place. But there'll be females around, so it's not just a male thing. Just like young ladies need men around, like some young women don't have fathers in their home. So how would it feel to go to a church program as a young woman and it's over, you're going to this program by sister so-and-so as your leader, but there's going to be a couple men there. They're going to be talking about, I don't know, something as how to fix a flat tire or something. She's not going to be sitting there telling you how to fix it. A guy's going to tell you, you're a young lady, you're on the road, you get a flat tire. This is what we expect you to do. I mean, you can't call anybody so you can stay safe. It resonates more when a man is saying it to you because men have changed more flat tires than women, So it's something like that. You just want to hear the man's perspective, not always the woman's perspective on everything when you're in a church program for young women.
So basically the moral of the story is that, when teaching anyone, you should always strive to give like the full picture.
If you can, that would be nice. I would like that. Okay. After he talked about the tweens camp and the soon to be forming young men's program, Pastor Quick called for prayer over Pastor Emeritus DeForest Soaries and his family, and he thanked them for their service. I think a lot of us were touched by that. Some people cried, and I can understand. There's a lot of things that happen when a family supports a man of God. Pastor Soaries' wife, Donna, has been, diligently, in the church doing a lot of different programs. Their sons, Malcolm and Martin, have been right by their father's side in supporting him. But they give a lot up to have a man of God at the helm of their family and at the helm of a big church. So he took the time, Pastor Quick took the time to make sure that we prayed and gave thanks, and that he would have the covering of God like he already has, but make sure that God was speaking through him when he spoke today. And I say that, and I give you that setup because this was some word. All right, the sermon at First Baptist today was titled Starting Over. It was given by Reverend Dr. DeForest B. Soaries Jr. The scriptures are from Haggai chapter 1, verses 4 through 7, and chapter 2, verses 18 through 19 of the New Revised Standard Version. This is a part of the scripture where the people had complained that it was too much to rebuild the temple. And these verses are God's response. He said, consider that you have so much, consider how much you have fared. Before Pastor Soaries got into the bulk of his sermon, he talked a little bit about how he normally would start. And he would normally say that he thanks God for waking him up every morning. He spoke about how he became pastor of First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens. And this was really good for me because I never knew some of the backgrounds. I don't know who the historian is of First Baptist. That person might have been named previously. I just am not aware of it. So I don't know these little nuggets of stories that people that have been there for years know about. I just know about the church where it stands right now today, and that's the church I've been attending. But this was when Pastor Emeritus Brown was giving the reins over to him. And he had said that he had gotten a new desk and some new carpet or something went down. And Pastor Emeritus Brown came in his office and went, like that. But now he said, I'm very sure that Pastor Brown in heaven is looking down and seeing what's going on with Pastor Quick and all of you. And he's probably going, which is very funny. And then he went on to talk about that he'll be eulogizing a few people in the next couple days or so, but that, he doesn't really do funerals and weddings the way he used to. He's only doing those things because Pastor Quick has, said he's okay with those. He comes when he's called, but only if it's okay with the pastors, what he's basically was telling us. And then he spoke about his beautiful wife, Donna Soaries, and how she has a YouTube series where she has interviewed mothers dealing around the topic of prayer. So she did influential mothers like Chris Rock's mom. This is a year before the assault at the Oscars that she actually interviewed his mother. She interviewed Shaquille O'Neal's mom, CeCe and BB Winans' mom, and she has one going on today. Hopefully, after we finish broadcasting, I'll be able to jump on and give that a little listen to. But if you're interested, you can go to her Mother's Determined to Pray YouTube channel and see those interviews and learn a little bit more about Donna Soaries and with the work that she's doing there. So if you get a chance, check it out. Okay. Now, Pastor Soaries went into his sermon where he talked about being psychologically imprisoned. He spoke about Franz Fallon, who's a psychologist and an intellect from Martinique that had influenced his life, his young life. Fallon wrote the book Black Faces, White Mask, and The Wretched of the Earth. In his works, he talked about the colonizer and the colonized. So those words did not just come up in Wakanda. They actually people have used them for a long time. Okay. And he actually talks in that book about what does colonization do to people that have been enslaved. So after giving us that background, he moved us to the Eco Park in the East region of Ghana, where it's like 44 acres. Pastor Emeritus said he had arranged for some strong, powerful horses to be in that park. And these horses would be used by school children and teachers. They would end up riding these domesticated animals. So to where the horse was to probably the back of the sanctuary. People will pay about 30 cents for these rides, something like that, he said. So he decided, after visiting once, he said, I want to ride the horse. He said, you guys, he saw them riding it. He saw how they were doing it. So after school was over, everything, he decided, I want to ride the horse. But the horse was trained to walk from the one tree to the next tree and back kind of thing. He wasn't going to be able to ride him around the town or anything like that because the horse had been conditioned. He said, Franz Fallon revealed that people can be down so long that they can be psychologically imprisoned by their background. So that's where it's kind of similar to the horse. The horse might have been a powerful, beautiful, these horses could have been powerful and beautiful and doing a lot of things. But once they were conditioned to have that task of taking the children and the teachers to and fro at a certain nice rhythm and pace, that's what they did. You weren't going to get them to gallop and storm and do all that stuff. They were going to just do what they had been conditioned to do over time. He moved that back to the Babylonian captivity where they were having their minds and bodies controlled. God stated to Hagar that he would spare the Babylonians that survived that experience. And that when they were finally freed, when God finally freed them, they went back and they built and updated their houses. But when they were down, they thought about God. But now the times are really good. They're not really thinking about him. They're doing stuff, like almost like us today. When things are bad, oh my goodness, all of us pray, Resa. I know I pray my little heart out when things are bad. I'm like, Lord, please stretch the dollars. Lord, please let, the bills all get paid. We all do it, and then when things are good, I've never thought it was me. I do want to say that's a misnomer that all of us think when things are good, we forget about. I never forgot about my God. Never. Was I as present as church in the last couple of years, Resa? Physically, no. But I did not have to do with the Lord. That had to do more with my work. What was going on at work? I work on the weekends. I was teaching and everything else. And yeah, I was online. I was online with my church a lot. I wasn't as vocal online as I am now. I wasn't like in the chats. I was just one of those numbers out there watching all the time. That's what I did. But I can see what he says. You kind of put God in a certain category in the back and not make him more focused and forward. How did you feel? Do you feel like a lot of us did that? There's times where we're really into God and there's times where he's up on a shelf and watching us live our lives.
Well, yeah, because I could say, even for myself, okay, grew up going to Sunday school, obviously stopped going to Sunday school, trying to think, graduated high school, started college, got back into church, and then graduated college and stopped really going to church. So that was like on the shelf. But I knew, I know who God was. I just wasn't really talking to him like that, so I apologize. And then, I went a period of time where I was like not really talking to him consistently like that, and then now I'm back on account. So
because sometimes life happens. I know we went through a divorce, my divorce in the family from your dad.
right,
That kind of affected, the going to church every Sunday. That was out the window. Your dad didn't want
right,
nothing to do with God after I left. He wasn't dropping off no little people at no church. That was something your mother did. And then when I was going through my divorce too, when I was going through it, I was looking for a church home at the time. I wasn't, still connected. I was formerly in the Mormon faith,
right.
Yeah. My mother went from Jehovah's Witness to Mormons. Now she back to AME because that's where she started in AME. So she did her round the robin thing. And then she came back to where, her spirit needed to be. And as a kid, you go where your mother goes, right? So I remember looking at you and Nicole and was like, this church ain't working for our family. It's not working anymore. There's some things I'm starting to learn. And I learned more when I went off to one of the church schools. And I was like, yeah, there's something tough about this church. It's not rubbing me right. So we need to look for another church. I thought that would make your dad happy where he would want to get going. He was like, he kind of liked Sunday football and all the families at church somewhere, and he could watch his pregame stuff and not be disturbed.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of guys that are into sports are just like Sunday is like my day to watch sports, and
Yeah.
it's like I feel like a lot of married couples or just couples in general tend to have that battle of okay, it's Sunday, we're gonna go to church, and they're just like, but my game comes on at like 1 o'clock, so I really can't miss that. So it's always like a tug of war type thing.
It is a tug of war, but I mean, most pastors understand this and they try to make sure that the 10 o'clock service is over by 12:30 or something like that. So they try to work with you to get a word in. And now that we have church online, it's even more convenient. So there's really no reason not to have some presence there. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I can understand how it can make a lot of people not talk to their God enough. I know I didn't talk to him enough when I was going through hard things. It was easy to talk to him in private, but the going to church and being among the saints was harder for me when I was going through a divorce, or harder for me when I was, in between places to live and I'm trying to, it was harder. Right. You could do it, but it was hard. Like you going from high school to college, that's a hard time to figure out how am I going to do the church thing when I'm leaving from living in South Jersey now to Central Jersey.
This is true. I felt like for me, like every time I had some type of like hardship, then all of a sudden I was trying to call God, and God's like, I was always here, you weren't here, but like, okay. So now it's like I'm trying to make it where like we talk every day. So it's different.
Yeah. One thing you got to keep in is like, even if the church is a building, it's a building, it's a group of people. Your guy's not in that church. You could talk to him every day. That's one thing I never stopped doing, was talking to my God. But I was not to and fro like that. But was my money invested in my church? Pastor Soaries like stuck me in the heart today. He was like, yo, he's like, you need to put your money where your faith is, kind of thing. And I felt a little convicted. Because I just talked to Mike the other day. Everybody's talking about the lottery and everything. And so I said to him while we was talking, he was dreaming and we were talking, I said, so let me ask you something. If you win the lottery, are you paying tithing? He goes, 10%. I said, yeah. He said, I'll give money to, charities and adventures, 10% of my money. I'll do that. That's not what I asked, but that's how he replied. And I know a lot of people think, okay, and even the Pastor Quick said it too. A lot of people think I'm giving 10% for what? Him to buy a new car or for him to get a new suit. What am I paying this 10% for? Some churches, you can see where the money's going. I can see where the money's going in First Baptist, and they're very transparent in their finances. So that's never been a question for me, where the money's going. But I can understand where Mike is coming from, because a lot of people in our age group, Generation X and younger, feel like, why does the money have to go towards what you wanted to go towards in the name of God? Why can't it go through stuff that God's put on my heart I should put my money towards? A lot of people feel that way. And I was hoping he would address that during this I Press My Stewardship. It's never come up yet. And I don't know why, but he never addressed it.
I don't know why either. I don't know. Maybe sometimes some people are just like, like you said, they want to place the money wherever wherever is placed on their heart, only because historically there have been some instances where people have donated money to certain places that shall remain nameless. And then they think it's going towards one thing and then it's actually not. And then it's like, that was not the intention of me giving this money. So maybe that's why.
Yeah. I mean, and I know the church I belong to isn't like that. I've looked at their finances. Pastor Soaries been over the church for years. Pastor Quick just got it, but they are very transparent. Like when they say the money's going for XYZ, it goes, you could see it on the line. I remember many a times I've taken my notes in to the financial meeting saying they said in the past these things would be paid for. And I was looking for those line items and they were there, you know. So I'm very happy to say that they're good stewards over the money. But what do you do when you wrestle with the times? Like I'm paying tithes, I'm paying tithings, but I want to pay this. And you know what happened to me? Oh, see, I'm going on a tangent. But I got to tell this part. Okay. I was paying my tithing. You know how I normally just put tithing at the church in the thing? I said, oh, I usually save it for when I'm in church. I just throw it in the. Okay. So I said, I'm going to go to the online giving. I want to do it online, just take it from my account. So I got a little money in my hand this week. And I said, it wasn't a paycheck. It was a little money that came. I said, I want to pay my 10%. So I go into the online portal for my church and I'm looking back over it and they said I was an inactive member. And I was like, when did I become inactive?
Oh,
and then I see they made me active again in this year. And I was like, but who said it was okay to take me off the active list? They took me out of one of the ministries I was in. And this is the same ministry the young lady told me, oh, there's a lot of people in this ministry. Some of us come and go. So I kind of knew after a couple of years of teaching, but I didn't get a notification. No one called me and said, we're thinking about taking you off this ministry. How do you feel about that? Maybe they sent it. I never got it. I don't know.
See, that's what I was going to say. I feel like, if you're going to make one of your members inactive, you should definitely send a postal letter or an email to say, this is just a notice that you're about to be inactive for the following reasons. And then,
But what makes you inactive? I was still attending online.
That's what I'm saying.
So I was like so shocked. I was like, how did I become inactive? Is that because I haven't been they don't see my tithing statements anymore? That's what it is. Does not having money going to the church make you active and inactive? Like, ooh.
Well, that is what would have to be addressed on the letter, so. But then again, wouldn't it be a little off-putting to be like, oh, you're inactive because you haven't give? Like, what if I have fallen on like hard times?
Or what if I've been giving to the charity of my choice in that time?
Right.
Or my family, like you said, my family's on hard times. What if it was something like, oh, I wasn't giving to another church, guys. I was still focused on you guys. But God put it on my heart to do XYZ with my money. I might have a relative in a nursing home. Who knows? I felt some kind of way when they said I was active.
I feel like
I'm active now. They said I'm active now, but I felt some kind of way, Resa.
I feel like we just opened the can of worms with the inactive because it's gonna be like, well, what exactly does it mean to be inactive? Like, because you didn't give money. But like I said before, if you fall on hard times and you're like, I need to go to church to get that word, so
but I was there. I would go to church sometimes.
No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying another person.
Sorry.
So I'm just saying, like, if someone has fallen on hard times and they of course they want to continue going to church because they need to be spiritually fed, but they really cannot give because they don't have the money, like, does that make you inactive? That's what I'm saying. They have to like clarify.
Apparently so.
But then that's a situation, because like if I can't give because I really am falling on hard times, why am I inactive? But I do show up every Sunday.
Yeah, I was online.
Right.
I was getting the word. I would stop by the bookstore and buy, different things, different sermons and stuff. But I guess when they stopped seeing you, and because I was teaching for a lot of years, but I was like,
right.
And it was cute because they took me out of a ministry I was in. They said, oh, she's not really coming to the ministry. And I can get that because if the ministry keeps calling you to do stuff and you're not answering, then you're not really there. Right. This is falling on other people. So take her out of the ministry. She's not really reporting for those things. Okay, good. But to say I was not an active member because based on what? Like, I want to know. They didn't tell me when I got baptized. If you don't do ABC, you become inactive. And we assume you're going to another church. I didn't get that lesson in the member class.
But see, that's the thing too, because now that I think about it, right? Obviously, when you come to church, no one's sitting here saying, "Oh, what's your name?" and marking you off the list like one of those like attendance sheets. So how would you know?
It has to be
Right?
money. It has to be money. It has to be financial. We
Oh
got a certain
man.
amount of money from people each year. We haven't sent you a statement in a couple of years. You're inactive.
Yeah.
Because you know they send statements when you do it online.
Oh,
But what if
trust me,
you're
I
in
know.
the and if you're you trust me, I know. But if you're in the sanctuary and you put it in the and you just put money in there, they can't account for that.
Right. So how do you know?
Exactly. So the times I've went and threw money in there, it doesn't matter, Angeline. The last time we see you physically wrote a check, that's when we knew you were active for sure.
This just goes back to the whole conversation about tithing and all that stuff. So it just
yeah.
Because somebody gonna be mad, like, why y'all telling people that we sending letters about you not being active?
It wasn't sending a letter. I went into the portal.
Yeah, the
portal. And I saw myself, and because I had to update it, it still said I was divorced. It still said, stuff in there. I said divorced mother too. I was like, I'm married now, so let me change that. I got married in the church and didn't change that because when you get married, you ain't thinking about you. You're thinking about us.
Here's the thing, though. You got married at the church, and like they know you. So you're telling me none of them could have updated in the system?
No, you're supposed to update your own stuff.
Oh,
so my thing is, if I didn't go in and say I'm not a member anymore, how come someone else went in and said I'm not a member?
I don't know.
Or not. She said I'm not a member. Sorry. She said I'm not an active member. I felt some kind
of way. I
need to
know a definition. I need Pastor Quick to like define in one of his sermons.
Pastor Quick, Reverend Field, somebody tell me.
Yeah.
What equates an active member and an inactive member? Because when I went to the portal, it shocked me. I knew when they took me, I said, is it because they took me out of a ministry? I'm no longer an active member, or does active only mean active in ministry? Maybe it means that. Then why am I active now? Because I'm not in any ministry yet. I don't know what it means. We opened a can of worms. I'm gonna keep this in here. We opened a can of worms.
I was gonna say it's just turned into like the first 48 with the gospel version.
Yeah, I just want to know the answer. So now, do I write a letter? Do I make a phone call and ask? I think I might have to make a phone call and ask what that means.
Like they say, the more you know.
But if I'm afraid to ask, then I'll find out the answer, Resa. I'm kind of afraid to ask.
But isn't knowledge power?
It is, but now I'm scared that once I know the rules of activity, is it going to be like, oh my gosh, if I step away again for any reason, they're going to be like, you're totally inactive and we're ripping up your membership. I don't know. Is it like a club? Is it like a club like that? Or does God know my name is on the roster and they should keep my name on the roster because God keeps my name on the roster?
Well, seeing as though we have been going through some trying times as of late, I don't think they're going to sit there and like rip up anybody's membership. They're just going to say you inactive again, and we're going to work on trying to get you active.
What is inactive? I still don't know. Somebody need to clue me in. What does it mean to be inactive on the rolls of the church? That means you didn't pay tithing. They haven't seen you in a while because now we have e-church members. You don't see us. Even some of us are in the chats. Are online watching and they never say a word. And that should be fine because they're totally into the service. They turned the live chat icon off and they just watch the service. Like I did for years. I would eat breakfast. I'd have my headsets on. I have my smartphone in my pocket while I'm doing I was getting a word. But somewhere along the way, they checked the box and said, no, she's not active no more. And I could see, the only thing I could see was I wasn't paying tithing. Oh, you ain't paying. We haven't seen a check physically from you in a while. So therefore, you're not active.
As long as you are getting your worship on Sundays and speaking to Jesus every day, he knows you're active. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Okay. Pastor Soaries. Let's go back to the sermon. I'm sorry. Let's go back to Pastor Soaries' sermon. In his final part, he talked about how to stop conducting ourselves with a past mentality. He said, we need to stop wasting time. You can always get more money, but not more time. We need to serve each other, and we need to look over our finances. 2, he said, course correction is needed. Latter splendor can be replaced with greater splendor, but you need to recalculate your life from the beginning. Our past gives us a perspective and grounding for future planning. He said, God will bless us once we start and we continue. And then thirdly, he said, understand the idea of pressing. I love this. We press to straighten things out, like when we iron our clothes. We press the appointing Satan so he can't breathe, just like an athlete would, how do you say that? we press the opponent so he can't breathe, just like an athlete, like a football player would press the offensive line kind of thing. And then finally, he says, we press towards the mark like a runner running a race, running a marathon. He says so many other wonderful things that I couldn't even touch on. You just got to listen to the sermon yourself. You can watch Reverend Dr. DeForest B. Soaries Jr. starting today, July 31st sermon that he gave at First Baptist Church. You can watch it on the FBC Somerset YouTube channel. Now let's go on to New Home Family Worship Center in New Orleans, Louisiana. They had a live stream on July 17th, 2022. And we haven't been to Louisiana yet in our pastor series. We went to Oakland, we went to Baltimore. Now we're here in New Orleans, okay? And we decided to highlight Bishop R.C. Blakes Jr. I listen to him from time to time. He has helped me out so much, in between, I want to say my service, in between my time at First Baptist and till now. There's certain reverends that I like to listen to in addition to my main senior pastor in my church. And he's been one of them I referred a lot of my friends to. Bishop Blake's sermon was called How to Get Along with People. His scripture comes from Hebrews chapter 12, verses 14 through 15 of the King James Version. This is a place in the scripture where we need to practice peace with all men and holiness. And he really was talking about our mindset and how we deal with people. Bishop Blakes said his topic today would be very vital for Christians because it will help us get more spiritually mature and have the social skills to get along with people. He says we need to stop stressing each other out. And that's the reason why he came up with this sermon. He started by saying fear of attending church in person. Now, our podcast is for new and rededicated Christians, especially those that are e-members. So we were paying close attention to this part. He said, don't be a hypocrite and state you don't want to attend church because you have a fear of catching COVID when we can see on social media that you're going to big events. Ooh, did that gut punch me? No, because I ain't been going to good big events. I've been going to work and coming home, Resa.
Yeah, I was going to say, listen, there some big events that I want to go to? Yes, certain concerts, but with COVID coming out, now you got monkeypox and polio. I've been in the house.
So. Yeah. So he wasn't really referring to us. He might be referring to other people that use it as a excuse. He says, you need to re-embrace the physical assembly of Christians. You should also be honest if you aren't attending church because you don't get along with certain people. He says, when we get right with God, we can get along with each other. That's very important. Some people have been using the e-church platform just to hide out. I mean, we went to church to get our holy oil, and we had a wonderful service, and we were in the sanctuary. But he's right. Some people use it as a way to escape certain people they don't want to run into. What do you have to say about that?
I can only speak for myself. Mm-hmm. We go to church physically when it's placed on our heart, and when it's not, we just watch it remotely. Are there people that hide behind watching it remotely to avoid certain people? Yeah. Are there some people that watch church remotely because it better suits like their home situation? Maybe they have young kids are taken care of, or maybe there's someone's caregiver. Of course, like everyone has their reasons as to why they do certain things, but it's all about like your intention as to why you're doing that.
Yeah. And I do get the fact that it's important for Christians to gather and edify and uplift each other and worship together. I think that's so important. So I do get it. That's part of the reason why, if anyone has ever been to First Baptist online YouTube channel on Sunday morning service, you'll see us there saying good morning to people and being engaged. And you'll see our emojis, putting our hands up in praise, or when we pray, you see us saying amen. We do that because it's a way to fellowship with those that are gathered online. And I know not everybody's on their keyboard. Some of them just watch without seeing anything in the chat. But then there's other people that are in the chat that want to say things to each other as saints, just like when you sit in the pews in the congregation, in the sanctuary. They want to say, oh, that was good. And go ahead, pastor. And you're all together going, yeah, that was good. Or I agree, or hallelujah, or blessings on the pastor. We want to say stuff like that because it makes sense. for us at the time. It's part of we're not in a physical assembly, but we are in an assembly online. Let's be perfectly clear. We might not be physically next to each other where I can see what she wore to church, but I can feel the spirit of a person via those text messages and emojis. And if they're having a good day, some people have come on and said they're fighting addiction. Can you guys pray for me? I'm currently, fighting an addiction. And we've prayed for them and said, yes, you're in our prayers. It's a community there too. It's an extension of the church. We also have people in ministry that are on the live chats. A lot of churches have people there in the prayer rooms to help out with that gathering of people. But I get what Bishop Blakes is saying. Please do not forego the ability of being among the saints, being among the Christians. Okay. So he went on to say, to give us how you can be at peace with everyone, his top points for that. He said, everyone may not be at peace with you, but you can be at peace with them. Ooh, what did you think when he said that, Resa? It's like, ooh, everybody might not like you. He even talked about coming into a room and some people did not like him when he walked into the room, but it didn't bother him.
Well, I had to learn that lesson because, again, I have transitioned from my 20s to my 30s, but again, I'm still technically, because I just got into the 30s club, I'm still like, I still have some 20
tendencies.
Yeah, 20 tendencies. So like, of course, like if I walk into a room and someone doesn't like me, I'm like automatically like questioning why, but then you quickly learn, or over time you learn. It really says more about them if you really didn't do anything besides just walk into the room.
Yeah.
So people like that, you just pray for them.
Yeah, he says he has no bitterness and no unforgiveness in his heart. I don't think all of us can say that. We're still working. All of us are working on different levels. Some people have mastered that. But some people have said they mastered it until God gives them, or Satan gives them a reason to be challenged in that area. Like all of us have areas we're challenged in. He's not challenged in that area as a bishop right now. He says he's been through so much. He no longer is easily offended. He has no bitterness towards anybody and no, unforgiveness in his heart towards anybody as a bishop. I think that's something to strive for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because just you even saying that, I'm just like, well, honestly, it depends on the day, because sometimes somebody could say something to me, and if it's like a certain tone, I might misread it. Yeah. And I might get offended. So it's like that again. That is what I call the art of learning to just be, not offended by everything, going with the flow and thinking the best out of everyone. I'm still young. God's still working on me, so there's still some things I'm working on.
And we live in New Jersey. He lives in Louisiana. I don't know if he's ever driven on the New Jersey Turnpike up here, but road rage is a real thing. It really is. You can see them in your rear view mirror telling you to get over. You can see people are like in a rush. So you might have, unforgiveness, no bitterness in your heart getting in your car. But by the time you get to your location, sometimes it's like, God, Jesus, just take the wheel, Jesus, because these people today were trying me, but I made it to work. Thank you for letting me make it to work or make it to wherever location you're trying to get to.
See, that's me when it's raining outside and I have to drive somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't, because the road rage is out of control when
it is
when the weather is not just like a cloudy or sunny day. Forget it.
Yeah. And we have big trucks and things around us. And so it's like the truck drivers really hate people in New Jersey because these little cars will zoom around them to go up to a light. And then the guy in the truck is like trying to slam on his brakes not to hit this little car that just had to get in front of him. Like we have no courtesy for big trucks around here. I see it all the time. It's like, do we not know what they're going through driving those big things?
See, when I was young and dumb and I had a little Toyota Corolla, I thought I was in Fast and the Furious, and I did that a couple times, and I realized, like, if I keep doing this, I'm gonna get an accident. So I just like let the trucks just do their thing. I just fast forward.
Yeah, you don't do their thing. Eventually, you go past them. But to be able to have unforgiveness in your heart after driving in Jersey, I don't know, Pastor Blakes. Pastor Blakes, come up here, drive in New Jersey, and tell me if you still feel that way. It's something we're all still working on. So he gave 4 points. 1, he said, you must grow and mature beyond being so easily offended. He said, church hurt is experienced by more pastors than anyone else. He knows that people in the congregation stop coming to church because of church hurt. But no one gets more hurt, he's saying, than pastors. I mean, think about all the people they interact with. Think about all the things that they have a say in and things they do. They have to show up to people's bedsides. They have to show up for weddings and funerals. They have to show up to be over different programs and things. And there are times where someone could say something in a certain way as a pastor or as a leader, and it could be taken the wrong way or taken out of context, or it could come off as harsh to someone just because the pastor was in a rush when he said what he said and he's on his way out the door. And someone feels offended because, oh, he didn't sit down and say it the way he would normally, or they're mad because he was rushed. They get a lot of church hurts as pastors, just having their congregations, finding things to hold on to be bitter about against them. But they come every Sunday. They come and they're there and they do their work on behalf of the Lord. He and Pastor Blakes went on and he gave an example of a young family man that wanted to join his church. And he asked him, was there any problem in his home church? And the young man said no. He said, if you don't have any problems in your home church, you need to go back there. Not too many pastors do that. A lot of pastors want the numbers of increase, the increased congregation. Oh, you're another good family. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Y'all can come on in, you can be, you were in the choir there. You could be in the choir here. Oh, she taught Sunday school. She can teach Sunday. They do that. He says he doesn't do that. He finds out the reason. And if there's nothing that happened other than you just like the way I speak to you online and things like that, he's like, I'll send you back to your home church. And I had to give him a lot of respect for that because not too many people do that. I'm sure he's not the only pastor that does that, but it was nice to hear that represented because you hear so many Sundays, join our church, join our church, join our church. To have someone say, I want to meet with you. And if I feel that, you're just doing it because you liked how something sounds and there's nothing at your home church that's awry, you should keep pouring into your own home church. He said it is a sign of immaturity and poor understanding to have, a sign of immaturity and poor understanding is to have a personality that's easily offended or living with a chip on your shoulder. That was something I was like, oh yeah, I had to learn that. I learned that in my 20s. I learned that in my 20s into my 30s, where you're at going into your 30s, you learn very quickly. You're going to have a lot of stress and a lot of headaches in your life if you don't let go of some things. You just have to let go. Because if you don't, it's like, how can you advance your friendships? How can your friendships get deeper if your friends can never tell you the real deal about yourself? Right?
Right.
Like they have to tell you, like let's say you have a girlfriend and every time y'all go out, she's found a way where you have to pick up the bill instead of her. She goes to the restroom, come back and go, oh girl, I left my wallet at home. Oh girl, I'm going to be a little short. Is there any way you can help? I'll pay you back. They always find a way where you pick up the bill when you go out to lunch. Now, one type of friend will say, well, I'm just not going to go to lunch with her anymore. Right? If you're really her friend, you will tell her the truth. That's the hard thing. Like, can you have the real conversations with your friend and still be friends? You don't have to be all mean about it and nasty about it, but can you do it? Have you been in a situation where you had to tell somebody a truth and wanting to keep the friendship still? Or were you pretty much like, I don't care, I got to step out of this. I was in my 20s. It's like, Mom, the friendship wasn't that important.
Yeah.
Which one?
I've had that situation a couple times. But it was like, you know what? It was just, it's one of those situations where you're just like, listen, we're both technically entering into like a different season. And clearly we were only meant to be like friends to, I guess, learn something from each other. Because obviously we're obviously going separate.
You are not going to give It's a Reason season of the lifetime speech to a person.
No, I am.
You gave that instead of keeping the friendship.
Well, no, I didn't. Like, listen, to be completely honest, there really wasn't a conversation. It was more so like, if I feel like I cannot say what I really want to say, and they also feel like they can't say what they want to say to me, then it's pretty much, we already know what it is. Because like, you just slowly, or better yet, you just, both parties naturally just drift apart.
Gotcha.
Because
there's a reason, a season, or a lifetime for everything under the sun.
Right. Right, but there was never like a conversation like, oh, I feel like you're a seasonal person. It was like, no, it's like you can just tell when the vibe is just off, because it's like you can't even come to your friend and say, hey, like,
Yeah.
like you got to pay your side of the bill, because it's just like, no.
Yeah. But he did say, you should be able to say what you want to say to your friend, and that person not be so easily offended or have a chip on their shoulder they were called out in that way. He also said that a person that has offended you, he says, has momentary control over your mind. It shows that you can be manipulated a little bit. That's how he said it.
I
How do you
need
feel?
I need some elaboration on that, because the way that I'm taking it is, if my friend,
Mm-hmm.
if she somehow offends me, and we
Mm-hmm.
have and I say, hey friend, you just offended me. I don't understand how that can be a
No, you
way.
haven't said that to her. See,
Oh, so
that's the
okay, so I haven't said it.
no, you've been just offended, and you haven't spoke on it. The person doesn't know you've been offended. Your whole mind is going back and forth about it. He's saying that's what I'm being controlled by that situation
See,
comes in.
that was me in my 20s.
That's 20. Doesn't it feel like teenage stuff? Yeah, it
Yeah,
really does.
that's some teenage that's some high school, like early 20s type shenanigans. So.
Yeah. He also said he went to Proverbs 18, 19 and said, refuse to be easily offended. For his second point, he said, always treat other people the way you desire to be treated. So when a person is in your face or even away from you, you should still treat them as if how you would want to be treated if someone was talking about you behind your back or they were right there. You should still treat a person the same way. You should still have kindness and fairness in your heart. For number two, Bishop Blakes said, always treat other people the way you desire to be treated. He spoke about his strong hatred of gossip. He said, treat people in your presence and out of your presence the way you want to be treated. And sometimes people have never seen an example of kindness and fairness. So you just might be their only example, their only interaction. And he quoted Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 to 44. How do you feel about that? Treat people the way you desire to be treated.
I agree.
I think so too. I think that's like a golden rule, right?
Yeah, because I feel like, especially now at this point in my life, like I said, I have moved from my 20s to my 30s. Like, there's a different standard that I have now. And it's not like some strict standard that, like, oh, people can't be human. You could be human, but it's like, if I'm treating you the way that I want to be treated, and then you're treating me as if I'm like at the bottom of the totem pole, or like trash in
An
the bottom of,
afterthought.
yeah, like an afterthought, or like trash in the bottom of your shoe. What are we doing?
I know. I know.
That's not cute.
That's not cute. He said another way to be at peace with everyone is to communicate when you're hurt. That's the third point. So communicate when you're hurt. Try to say it while you can still smile when it first happens. Don't fester on the hurt. He spoke how minor hurts in his family, how he's felt about them. He's had minor hurt from his wife, from his kids, from other. He doesn't let that stuff fester. He says the worst thing to do is to feel hurt and not verbalize it. Doing so will allow Satan to plant a seed of bitterness around that relationship. And he referred to Luke chapter 17, verses 3 through 4, Ephesians chapter 4, verses 26 to 27 of these are King James versions that he referred to. So communicating when you're hurt is not an easy thing, Reese.
No, it's
not.
But I have to give a testimony on this, because I felt like when he said that, I understood what he said, because that was something I had to work on. I even went to therapy. That's one of the things I talked about my therapist, because I was so consumed with like trying to make sure everybody else was good, that like anytime I would have my feelings hurt, or whatever the case may be, I wouldn't want to speak on it at that moment. But the problem is, when you do that, things start to pile up. So then when you do hit whatever your mark is, and all of a sudden you have like, I don't want to call it a blow up, but you like all of a sudden you start saying things. Everybody's like, I don't know where it's coming from, because that happened like 6 months ago. And we're talking about it now. So I think that you do have to give yourself that permission to say, hey, when something happens, you gotta like speak on it. If not in that very second, at least before the day is up, so you can at least circle back and say, hey, that conversation we had earlier when you were joking around and said whatever, it hurt my feelings. I didn't like that. But I wouldn't let it go on for long because then it makes a bigger issue. It's not even worth it.
And you experience that a lot at work. If you're in middle management where you have people below you and a boss above you, and you're right in the middle, you feel this stuff all the time where you can have something that happened that's unfair or unjust, or something that's said to you a certain way, or something that comes off kind of terse or harsh from your boss, or something that seems like disrespectful for a subordinate, and you're right in the middle. You have to speak on it. It's hard because when you're in that position, you want, first of all, everyone to like you and respect you. Second of all, you want to be a team player at work, right? But when an injustice happens or a hurt happens for you, you do have to verbalize it, but in a way that stays professional, because you don't want to be, making your coins be a consequence, and you don't no more coins. That means no more tithe and no more return. According to my church, you got to keep the money coming in, give the Lord his due. So in order to keep everything running right in your life and to maintain the respectful hierarchy in your job between your boss and your subordinates and yourself, you got to say it. Now, he said, say it with a smile first. I don't know how many times I smile when somebody gut punched me. Usually when it happens, my whole brain goes, oh, no, she didn't. Or no, he didn't. That's how my brain normally goes.
Yeah.
It's not a smile thing.
I feel like previously when it would happen to me, I would have mostly shut down, and everyone and anyone that was around me that saw it, like they just knew because my whole
face.
Because listen, I will say that I'm a very vibrant person. So you like obviously when I come into a room, I'm happy. But you also know when you have like ticked me off because my face will show it immediately before I say anything.
You don't do resting bee face, do you? Like you get like really mad in your face, like
no, like honestly, I do, and I didn't even realize this until like my sister had told me, because I get like this button lip, so when I get really mad, and it makes it worse because the person can see it and they're asking you like, okay, what's going on? I'm like, I don't want to talk about it, but it like that really doesn't like help the situation. So I think it's great that he's able to say it with a smile, but I feel like if you are in a situation, whether it's personally or professionally, and you feel like, you don't feel comfortable speaking up for yourself, you have to dig deep down in yourself and figure out why that is and work on that so you can get better at speaking up for yourself.
The hard thing about that is that some people process before they can speak on things. They have to process, oh, why did that hurt me? What am I feeling? Because sometimes it's not something they did. They need a moment to talk about it. So if you talk about it the minute you're hurt, sometimes you might be talking from a place that's not authentic. It could just be something that you haven't healed in yourself. Because somebody could have been talking to you just matter-of-factly. Can you do this? And it would be matter-of-factly. And you took it like, the way she said that was so rude. And it wasn't rude. Something in you took it as rude when she was just talking straightforward, or he was just talking straightforward. So I don't know if I would talk right away when you experience a hurt, if you know you have triggers. I think all of us need to know our triggers first.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that because like we all have triggers. Like if you don't know what your triggers are, definitely take some time out for yourself, like and learn what those are. Because because like you just said, like you could be having a simple conversation and somebody could say something you don't even think is gonna trigger you, but the reaction that you have is like not. It's kind of to the other person, like I don't understand why they're responding this way, but then little do you know, once you process it, it was a trigger for you.
Yeah. So. When I was in my 20s, it used to be when someone would say something, I would get easily offended. And it was always because it was a criticism. I realized when I was younger, the criticisms were harder for me. I never looked at them as constructive criticism. When they were constructive, I always looked at it as being like, you didn't do that right. You're not sufficient. You did not do whatever. I always took it like hard because the perfectionist part of me wants to always do things correctly. So when someone pointed out, that was good, but could you do it this way? I was like, what's wrong with what I did? What's wrong with what I did? I thought what I did was really good. They're like, oh, no, what you did was good. And it's like, it became a thing where sometimes now I can articulate it. Now I can actually say when they say something to me that needs to be changed or corrected, I said, oh, okay, they just want that modified. It's not there's something wrong with how I did it. They want a modification. So I looked at it differently as an adult, but as a kid, as a teenager girl, any kind of criticism, what's wrong with it? I spent 4 hours working on that paper for school. What do you mean I need to put a works cited page? What do you mean?
Right. I definitely can relate because personally and professionally, like just to have constructive criticism said back to me,
Yeah.
I will sit there and be like, but I did all these other things great, but we're gonna focus on the one thing. And it's like, but then it's like you're not taking accountability for like someone else's feelings. Like they're telling you, hey, that hurt my feelings. And instead of you taking a beat and processing that, you want to go automatically into, oh, but I did all these other grand things. And it's just
yeah. Like, and that's a sign of immaturity when you turn it back to you. Someone's coming to you saying to you, they feel hurt. And your answer is, but what about this, that, and the other? But you feel hurt when I did that. When I paid for your dinner, you feel hurt when I paid for your dinner.
Right. And that's why going to church and therapy is a great combination because you learn these things about yourself to grow up. Yeah.
And the last point that Bishop Jakes brought up was apologize when others have expressed that they have been hurt by your actions. He said he's had to apologize to his wife, even though he wasn't sure what he was apologizing for. I think a lot of husbands can relate to that. And he said some people have an aversion to apologize. Like they can't, it just makes their skin crawl thinking about having no apology. They think that other people should apologize first, and I have nothing to apologize for. He says we need to heal that. We need to rebuke that spirit that thinks that there's something wrong with you apologizing. And he gave scriptures. He said Matthew 5:23-24, Luke 9, verse 23, Romans 14, verse 13. He said that is something you need to work on. If someone asks you to apologize or someone says you hurt them, and your first response, like you said, is not to say, oh, I'm sorry, that's not my intention, and try to work it out. You just go into the defense like, yo, what you mean? There's a problem. You got to work on that. So I'm sure in your life, you've had to deal with all of these things that we've talked about regarding how to get along with people.
Yeah.
And I think you can equate now that you're in your 30s, the way you interact with people, and you're a supervisor too. So how you deal with people now is a lot different from how you dealt with them as a teenager. Right?
Yeah, I will say, right, the person that I am now and the communicator that I am now, I like this person more than I did in my 20s. Not saying I didn't love her. I did. She's had a lot of stuff that she needed to like process and get through, because like the way I communicate now is healthier, it's more beneficial. Because before it was very like reactionary. Like people, like sometimes people didn't know what set me off, or like why is she upset, because it's like she was fine 5 minutes ago, now all of a sudden she's upset, like what's wrong? But now it's like I'm able to articulate, and even if I can't articulate it in that moment, I will say, I learned this from my therapist, I will say, like, I need to take a moment, because what you just said, like, you know, hurt my feelings in some capacity. I just want to process this, and I'll get back to you in like 10-15 minutes. But as long as I say that, so the person knows, okay, like obviously something just took place, so they need a second to process what just happened. It's not like, oh, we were having a conversation, I said something, she just got quiet, and you're just like, what do I do now? Because it's kind of awkward. Like,
I know.
Okay, but
go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I was gonna say, but just to go back to your last point about being able to say you're sorry, that is the one thing at the core of who I am. Like I never, ever want to like hurt someone's feelings. So when it is brought to my attention and someone says, hey, like you really hurt my feelings when you did X, Y, and Z, like of course I feel like crap, and I definitely give a genuine apology. The only time I struggle with saying I'm sorry is when I am confronted with someone I don't care for or I don't like in some capacity, and I need to apologize. Then like that's the part that I'm trying to work.
I think that's hard for everybody.
Yeah.
When someone, I don't want to call them your arch enemy, but when someone comes that you just don't get along with, like oil and water, and then you realize that you need to apologize to them, all of us have to take a beat. Doesn't mean we can't do it, because just like I said to somebody, people don't know. I think the person was white that said this too. I said, people of color, we have our face we put on for work, and then we have us. And the face we put on for work, it's us, but it's like a version of us that is white acceptable. You know, we do and say certain things that will not make anything about us be questioned. Like the way we say things, the way we do things. And then there's a way we do things with our own, that only if you're within our culture that you understand. You know, it's almost like if you belong to another church and another faith and you come into the Baptist church, you've never been to Baptist church in your life, there's things going on you don't quite understand. And so it's going to throw you off a little bit.
Right.
Same thing happens with people. You can go to, like, remember I used to tell you when you're young, don't go to anybody's house I don't know. Because everyone's household's a little different.
Right.
And you can't say, oh, can I eat at so-and-so's house? I'm like, what kind of cook is she? What kind of house am I sending you to? I don't want to be sending you somewhere and they're telling you to go in the kitchen yourself and open a can of beans. I don't know where you're going. So it's like everyone has, a way of being, in our spaces, including at work, at church, at home. We have to respect that. So just because they see Resa a certain way at work does not mean that's the same Resa that's going to be at home.
Right. And that's the part that really makes me laugh because I feel like a lot of people, like they only see one side of me at work because that's how I keep it. But then like outside of work, it's like a completely different person. And I like it that way because again, there's me at work and there's me at home. I have to have two different people. I can't have
all of us are multifaceted.
Right.
I mean, case in point, look at Beyonce, right?
Right.
Beyonce, the singer, even she calls her onstage persona by a different name because she knows she's that different from how she is at home with her family and her kids.
Right.
Right. Same thing goes for us. I know when I put on my suit and go to work, it's like body armor. You put it on, it's like, okay, ready to do this, And then right. I know when I put on my sweats at home and I'm with my husband and my dog, I'm a different way. Now I put this headset on for the podcast, I'm another way.
Right. No, this is true because there's like, there's me at work, there's me at home, there's me as a daughter, there's me as a friend. Like there's a whole
you as a podcast host.
Yep. Right. There's like depending on the arena, you get a different version of me every time. Mm-hmm. So
exactly. So I think that's part of the friendship and getting along with people. If I would make a number 5, is that you got to understand that people are multifaceted. You can catch a person on a bad day. Mm-hmm. You can catch a person that's busy, that's rushing, that's whatever. And it's not the person you expected them to be because you knew them at work or you know them in your relationship. Like my husband, this whole podcast thing, when he first watched it, he was like, oh, wow. You guys are doing that, huh? I'm like, yeah. He knows me as the wife and the mother. He had never really been into the podcast space. So to stop and to listen and watch, he was like, oh, wow, okay. Mm-hmm. This is kind of cool. And it kind of threw him off like, that's another facet of my wife I wasn't privy to, but now I'm privy to it and it's kind of cool, but it was different. It was totally different.
But see, even just to piggyback off of what you just said, that's like the same example as someone saying to you, oh, so-and-so is such and such. And I always take that with a grain of salt because I'm just like, maybe with you, they're like that, but I haven't met them. I don't even know. And one of my closest friends that I have right now, like, people were saying certain things, but then when I got to meet them, it was like, I didn't have any of that. And come to find out that the person that was like starting the rumors, they were insecure and they were trying to like, throw people off. But she's like the person that I'm like really cool with. They're like a really good person that has a good heart. So I was like shocked that people were like trying to bring down their character. It's weird.
Yeah, I think that's a sign of immaturity too, when you take an assessment of a person based on other people and not your own assessment. Now, don't get me wrong. If a lot of people you are telling you the same thing,
that's different, right?
And there are people that have had real interactions and you can trust them. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a mother. If I tell you the guy you bring home, I don't like. I'm not saying it because I don't want you to date. I'm not saying it because I enjoy that you're in a time of singleness right now. You bring home somebody. If I like them, I like them. If I'm suspect of them, I'm gonna be a little suspect. That's me. And because you're my daughter, you will trust that, okay, something's not quite right for mom. I'm going to take that and put it back here and have it in the back of my mind to see if she changes her mind over time, see if there's any red flags I got to watch out for, because I only have your best interest at heart.
Right.
I really do. My dream is not to have both of my daughters to be single for the rest of their lives. Right. I know there's a wonderful guy out there for you. You're in a time of singleness right now. I know there's going to be some wonderful guy that's going to come across your path. And I'm looking forward to meeting my future son-in-law one day. But until that happens, I'm going to have a feeling certain kind of way when you say, Mom, I want to bring so-and-so by the house to meet the family. Yeah, we're going to be looking one eyebrow up like, yeah, who's this dude? And it should feel like that. It should feel like that. It should not feel like, a guy gets my daughter into his family, but we don't get to have him into our family.
Right.
And I also trust my daughters not to bring too many people around. Y'all not like that. You've never have been. You have friends, you have acquaintances, you have people that you guys like to do things with, guys and girls that you like to go to concerts and things like that with, and group dates and all that. But when it comes to being serious about somebody, you bring somebody by. You know how I am. I shut everything down. I'm like, okay, tell me what day you're coming over. Sit them on the couch, and I look them right in the face and I tell them how I feel.
Right. And mind you too, I want to go on record, right? Because like a lot of my friends that I grew up with, like I met their parents and their parents love me. I'm that friend that all parents love because I'm very super laid back, but I'm just like, I'm an overall good person. But like, yeah, I like meeting the parents. I want to know. Cool. And I actually end up becoming friends with my friends' parents too. So I'm just like, why not?
Yeah, because you have like a bit of an old soul to you.
I've heard
as
that.
being the older child of mine, you kind of have an old soul to you. I mean, you're into 80s and 90s R&B. Like how many people in your age group are into my music? I mean, please,
it's true. It's true.
Yeah. You have a good, range of maturity. I don't know where it started. Maybe because you're an older sister. A lot of older siblings had more responsibilities having younger siblings underneath them. So if you wish to view Bishop R.C. Blake's Jr.'s July 17th sermon called How to Get Along with People, just go to the New Home Family Worship Center's YouTube page and you'll find it there. Okay, before we go on to our next segment, last week had a bit of an announcement last week, and I wanted to tell you how it's going. How'd you feel about it once we put all that out there, Resa?
I feel proud.
I know, me too. My husband was like very proud to the point where he's like telling everybody in the family to go listen to the podcast, go watch the video. So many people were shocked. They didn't even know. A lot of people were like, I just thought, you have, maybe a lazy eye or something like that. Or some people said, I didn't see anything wrong with your eyes for years. I don't know what you're talking about. So
see,
some people were like, wow, I had no idea. Most people were saying they had no idea. And then other people are saying, I knew something was slightly like, maybe you had a lazy eye. I'm not quite sure. One of my girlfriends and one of our listeners said, you need to reach out to Carly Faith's parents and let them know that the video's up there. She called me and I was like, well. And so she was on the phone. I said, okay, I'll do it because you're on the phone right now. And I'll see if they have any social media handles. If they do, send a little quick note and send the link to the video. And Carly's mom liked the message. So that means either she listened to it or she's going to listen to it and watch it. So I really appreciate that, she knows that her daughter inspired me to tell my story.
Yeah.
And I hope when my memoir comes out, who knows, maybe if it gets to the point where I finish it, maybe I can ask her to read it or ask someone to read it in her camp or her father to read it. And maybe they'll give me a statement or something, a forward to the book.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice? Have them read it first?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about that. That might be something cool to do. But if not, I got my daughter, she'll put a forward in there in a second. My forward that my mom's doing this thing. She's so proud. My husband will do it too. Y'all both could do it together. But
listen, fun fact, I'm actually a good writer, I've been told. So I can do a forward if you need one.
And if not, I can edit you because I'm an English professor. So don't worry about it. All right. Okay, let's go on to the next segment. I show the screening room. All right. Now, I have a love for good family-based, faith-based movies on Sunday. Mostly these days, I'm watching them a little before Sunday to get ready for the podcast. I have to be honest. I'm watching them now on Saturdays, it seems like. But they are given to me by searching the PureFlix catalog. PureFlix is not a sponsor with the Quickness, but because I have a subscription, that's where I watch my faith-based movies. This week, I am featuring Never Quit. This movie came out in 2015. It was written by Charles H. Irving and Felicia Irving, directed by Jason Allman, and it stars Lee Weddell, Nicole Crump, Christian Mackenzie Rice, Bill Ross, Barbara Eccles, Ian Hayward, Bradley Martin, Cheryl Denise, and others. Here's a brief synopsis. Never Quit is a victorious story of a female athlete whose rise to stardom and popularity suddenly missed the shot. She discovers how we don't understand God's plan, but realizes that everything happens for a reason. The themes are discovering purpose, women's basketball, perseverance, trials, faith, illness, community, and teamwork. Now, I picked this film because of what's going on in the press right now, right, Resa, with one of our female basketball stars. Right. What's her name again?
Brittany Griner.
Brittany Griner, who's currently being held in Russia. Been trying to get her home for months. The U.S. has. And so when I came across this film about a female athlete that's a basketball star, it caught my attention. I said, "Well, let me give this a watch." I liked the film. And most of the films on our podcast I've liked and adored for one reason or another. Let me tell you what I loved about this film. One is the performance of Lee Haddell. Haddell played the lead. I think her name is Kyra. I believe her name is Kyra in the film. She's I think she's the center of the women's basketball team. She's a college student. And the pros are looking at her. She's the one that they're about to go to nationals at the start of the film. It's really good. And she ends up falling ill where she cannot go on. And she has to question why God would have this happen to her at a time where this is all she's done was play basketball all her life. Why is this being taken from her in this way? And it was a really good story because a lot of us go through things in life and we think we know what our purpose is. And because other people have poured into us saying, "Oh, this will be good for you to do. I can see that you have talent in this area." And God says, "Yes, you might have talent in that area, but I want you to do this instead." And that's basically what happens in this movie. She had a belief about herself and where she saw herself, where her talents were getting her to the point where she wasn't even focusing on some of her school classes the way she should be because she was so focused on where she thought she was going to be. And then you get the curveball of life that happens. We all get that, right? I loved Lee's performance. I wish I could say she's done a lot more acting since the film. I think she's only been in 2 more things after this film. And I hope the one problem I noticed about this film is not the reason why she's not getting future parts. I hope this is not the reason, but I have to bring it to your attention if you choose to watch it. The cinematography was done by Kevin Keller. There's auditory problems in this film. If anyone has ever watched films that had a big budget and then watched the lower budget films, you notice some things might be a little different. It could be the quality of the acting. It could be the quality of the lighting. It could be the quality of the audio. It's the problem with the audio in this film. The volume of the dialogue is noticeably lower than that of the sound effects and the soundtrack. Anytime the soundtrack or any sound effects come on, they'll be remarkably louder than anything that's been said in dialogue. Now, most people know in the film industry that it's always best to record on high quality audio during the production, like with your mics and things of that sort. But there are still some people that believe that in the post-production of a film, you can fix a lot of things. This movie couldn't do it. You could not fix in post audio the location and mic placement. You couldn't fix those things in post. The viewer has to hold their remote in their hand, or if you do this online, control your volume keys by your hands anytime there's an abrupt change in sound, which is quite jarring. It doesn't even feel natural to do something like that, to have a remote or to be adjusting the volume up and down. But it happens on some of the movies that are with a lower budget. I wanted you to be aware of it because in spite of those problems, it's a really good story. It really, really is. And I don't think the stars of it should suffer and not be known. I mean, the writing is good. Felicia Irving is the one that did the screenplay, even though the story was by Charles Irving. Felicia did a wonderful job. The actress that was in the lead did a great job, but I hope it did not put her in a state where that Lee doesn't want to do future things. She's only done 2 things since that. And I hope she understands she did a wonderful job. Like, I really believe she was totally ticked off when her gift was taken away from her. I mean, the looks she could give, she gave the right kind of scars on her face and the I'm mad at God stuff where she's throwing the basketball. It was like, oh, girl, you're good. When your friend is not talking to anymore because, she's now taking over your place on the team. All of that was really, really good. I just wish the sound quality would have lived up to it. Now, I will say, maybe the sound quality is due to the platform I watched it on. It could be, but I've watched all my films on the PureFlix platform, and that film is the only one so far I found that has a little bit of an audio problem. Now, The Job that I also watched, their audio was a little bit lower, not as in surround the sound like I'm used to, but it was still nice and clear. And I didn't have to do a lot of jumping with my remote. So I know it happens from time to time. Have you noticed that too on PureFlix or other platforms that some movies of some quality some movies with some budget have one quality of audio or lighting or effects compared to the other ones?
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. Sometimes I can hear like the voiceover as they do it in the either in the show or in the movie. And it kind of takes me out of the moment when they do that. And I get it, you know, again, these shows and movies have to have like a certain budget so they can't go over. But audio is like very fundamental to make sure you get that right. Other things that they could probably skim back on, make sure the audio is perfect.
Well, I know even us doing the podcast, we have $0. We have a Pantheon, we have a Cash App, and there's nothing that's been coming into those because we're brand new. So everything we have, it's just what we can do, and that's fine. I mean, we do the best we can do, and maybe they were doing the best they could do at the time. Maybe they had limited availability of mics and mic placement and all of that, but you can tell the difference. And at first I was thinking about turning it off. I'm not going to lie. I thought about taking it off. It only had like 2 stars on the PureFlix platform. I think 2 or 3, might be 3 stars. And other places that had 2. This one had 3. And I didn't know if it was the story or what. So I said, I'm not going to let someone's rating deter me from seeing what this is about, because the Britney story right now, her being over in Russia, she's being a basketball player. I said, oh, I just think I should watch something like this today. So I gave it a shot. Wonderful story. Lee Waddell was wonderful. And I hope I see her in more things. She's a wonderful actress. But this vehicle with the audio, it didn't do her justice. There was some conversations she was having. I couldn't hear the conversation between her and her best friend because they had played this music so loud that all you saw was their lips moving. And I know that was a pivotal scene for the movie, but I have no idea what they said.
See, that reminds me of the time I was watching a certain award show who shall remain nameless, and there's a certain artist who shall remain nameless. And I guess like the actual instrumental was louder than the person's mic, and I was just like, and it was live, so I was like, oh, this is not good. Somebody's getting fired because
I know. Well, you can watch the trailer to this video. I'm sorry, you can watch the trailer of this movie on withthequickness.com, and we have it posted there. You can also check it out. I believe you can also even download it from YouTube and Amazon if you want to take a look at it. So I hope you will. I enjoyed it. Other than that problem that has other than the audio problem, it's a really good film. And Lee did an excellent job. The next segment we have is called Before the Bema Seat. This segment, every time I say its name, makes Resa smile. It makes her smile because it's a place where people can come and give their story of their Christian experience that will inspire new and rededicated Christians. I don't have anybody in the spot. I have a couple rams in the bush that tell me they want to do it. So hopefully that will be coming soon. Soon, meaning hopefully before our first season is over, and we haven't decided on what the number will be for our last part of season 1, but hopefully before first season 1 is over. If you are interested in doing your own Bema Seat interview with me, and I will preface it by saying these interviews are not done on Sunday. They're done sometime during the week virtually that works for you and for me, and then they're inserted into the podcast. But you can visit www.withquickness.com and select the Bema Seat tab. There you can fill out our interview form so we can begin your virtual interview process. You can also email bemaseat@withquickness.com to begin the guest process. Okay. So Resa, another show in the can.
We did it.
We did it. It's long. I hope you don't mind me throwing your singleness out there. I hope that didn't get you like feeling any kind of way.
No, that's fine. You can tell the world that I'm single. Never know.
You never know. It might inspire the one that's supposed to capture your heart to slide in your DMs.
At this point, I'm not gonna block my blessing. So however it's supposed to go.
Or run into you in the grocery store.
Oh man, I'm not gonna live that down.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay. I mean, times of singleness for young women. You're in your 30s. That's the time when people start noticing you, and you start noticing people, and True. You know what you want out of life now. I mean, you're doing.
I really do. I really do.
You're decorating your apartment just the way you like it. It's like everything is like clicking on all four cylinders. God has a way of making the right one show up.
Of course.
So, like I said, I'm not going to be a wing person, but you could definitely bring them by for me to have something to say.
Of course.
But I hope you have a wonderful week, Resa. And thank you so much for doing the podcast with me.
Thank you. And I hope you have a great week as well.
All right, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye, everyone.
I just can't stop thinking about you. I just can't stop thinking about you. I just can't stop.